All right, so picture this. We're in the middle of the American Revolution, and a secret spy ring is using things like invisible ink and coded laundry lines to outsmart what was then the most powerful army on the planet. This is the wild and honestly kind of unbelievable story of how they helped change the entire course of the war.
Okay, so this line might sound like it's from some new spy movie, right? But it actually gets right to the heart of how this ragtag group of ordinary people used some seriously low-tech tricks to pull one over on the British. So how on earth did we even get to this point?
To really get why they had to be so clever, so sneaky, we first have to understand the enormous problem that General George Washington was up against.
So, it's 1778. The American Revolution has been going on for 3 years, and it's not going well. Not at all. The British have taken over New York City, which is a huge strategic blow, and Washington is basically stuck trying to figure out what they're going to do next.
I mean, just look at the odds here. It was completely lopsided. The British Army, they've got better uniforms, a massive navy, and they're well-fed. Meanwhile, Washington's guys are so badly equipped that stories say they were literally eating their own shoes to survive. The situation was absolutely desperate.
So Washington, who was a brilliant general, has this realization. He figures out that these direct, head-on fights, acting like a bowling ball just trying to knock down pins, that's not going to win the war. He needs an edge. He needs information. He needed to get sneaky.
And that need for a new kind of weapon, a secret weapon, is what led to the creation of one of America's very first intelligence agencies, the Culper Ring.
This whole thing was the brainchild of Major Benjamin Talmadge. He goes to Washington with this pretty radical idea. Let's use regular people, civilians the British would never, ever suspect. And his plan was to recruit his old childhood buddies from his hometown on Long Island. I mean, think about it. They knew the area, they knew the people, they could blend in perfectly.
So first up, you've got Abraham Woodhull. He's a farmer from Setauket, Long Island. He becomes the on-the-ground organizer, taking the codename Culper Sr. He's basically the central hub for all the intel, a job that put him and his entire family in constant danger.
And then you have Robert Townsend. His codename was Culper Jr. Now he was the key to the whole operation. He was going to be the man on the inside working right under the noses of the British High Command in occupied New York. The risk for him was just off the charts. So how did he do it?
Okay, so this is where it gets really fun. The methods the Culper Ring used were absolutely ingenious. It was this amazing mix of clever disguises and some very simple but incredibly effective secret tech.
This was Townsend's stroke of genius. He sets himself up as a loyalist, someone who supported the British, and opens a general store and a coffee house right in the middle of British territory. This meant that high-ranking British officers were his customers. They'd come in, gossip, complain about their bosses, and, most importantly, talk about their military plans, all while he's just serving them coffee.
But how do you get that information out safely? Townsend used something called a sympathetic stain. It was the special invisible ink developed by a guy named Sir James Jay. He'd write his secret reports between the lines of regular letters or in the margins of newspapers, and you couldn't see a thing until you brushed a specific chemical over it. It was basically the 18th century version of an encrypted email.
Getting that message to Washington was this incredibly complex, super high-stakes relay race. So first, Townsend gets the intel. Then a courier named Austin Rowe rides a brutal 55 miles to a secret drop box hidden on Woodhull's farm. From there, it took a whole series of signals and handoffs, including, yes, laundry, to finally get the message to Washington.
And the laundry thing is just so brilliant. There was a woman named Anna Strong, and she used her clothesline to send coded signals. If she hung up a black petticoat, that meant a message had arrived. And then the number of handkerchiefs hanging next to it would tell the boatman, Caleb Brewster, which secret cove to go to for the pickup. It was absolute genius, hidden in plain sight.
So this whole system, as crazy as it sounds, worked for years, feeding Washington all this critical intelligence. But it all led up to the Ring's single biggest discovery, an act of treason so shocking it could have cost the Americans the entire war.
So what was this massive, earth-shattering secret? Well, let's just say it was probably the single biggest dude seriously uncool moment of the whole war.
That's right. The Culper Ring uncovered the infamous plot by American General Benedict Arnold to hand over the fort at West Point to the British. Now, if that had happened,
The British would have controlled the entire Hudson River, which would have basically cut the colonies in half. Exposing this was a massive, massive win for Washington, and it was all thanks to his sneaky spies.
So what's the big takeaway from this incredible story? Well, it's that the Culper Ring really kind of redefines what it even means to be a hero.
We often think of heroes as the people on the battlefield, right? The ones in uniform, charging a cannon, being loud and bold. But the Culper Ring shows us there's a whole other kind of heroism. It's the quiet, the clever, the sneaky heroism of an ordinary person pretending to be a shopkeeper, risking absolutely everything with every invisible word they write.
And that brings us to one last, kind of provocative question from our source material. Is the lesson here that heroes can be sneaky and quiet? Or is history just this series of chaotic, totally improbable events, usually won by whoever's willing to get a little clever? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.